I'll call us to order. Before we start, let me read the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you've reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles. You have the minutes. You received the minutes with your packets for the meeting tonight. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Minutes are approved. Roger, we have a site plan.
Thank you. The site plan is for an addition of a carriage house at Blackberry Farm. The property is located at 1471 West Millers Cove Road and is identified on tax map 82 parcel 6702 and is in the planned rural resort district. The structure is a duplex that will house a total of 4 bedrooms and will be part of the Blackberry Farm Resort. The structure is 3,640 square feet and will be located in the area where the swimming pool once was located. The structure will be approximately 280 feet to the nearest property line, which will be to the back side of it, which is Mountain Home. The existing vegetation will be sufficient for the buffering requirements. This duplex will be attached to an existing LPP disposal system and is subject to Gary Ferguson's review and approval. The structure itself will be built of similar architecture as the existing structures. And I made a mistake here. I said brick and stone, but it's actually, they're calling it Tennessee field stone. So it looks like similar to what the main house is made out of. And I've got the elevation view here if anybody wants to see it. The addition of this structure will not bring the overall open space for this development below the 20%, as is required in section 9.11A that I included there below. And I've spoke with Justin about the erosion control and drainage requirements, and due to the size of the structure and the amount of disturbance, none will be required for this site.
Good. Thank you, Roger. Do we have any questions or comments? I'm sorry, Bruce.
So, Roger, this is only accessible by golf cart, right? There's no automobile, but it looks like that's good.
Yeah, a lot of what they're doing up there is like that. I don't know where their main parking will be, but there's a road that goes right by it, but they didn't include any car parking for it, so. You could probably fit a car in that, but they say cart parking, so, yeah.
Any other comments? Questions?
Yeah, on number 4, on the back, you start with and what?
Number 4.
On the very last page.
Very last page.
You didn't finish number.
You didn't finish number 4. You said it ends at and.
I just copied and pasted that out of our regulations, so I'm not sure what the and is.
Well, I'm sure it's minor, but we'd like to know.
I think that requires a permit application and a new permit.
Okay. I'll settle for that.
If there's no more comments or questions, do I have a motion? We have a motion and a second. If there's no more comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Site plan is approved. Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Nothing under hearings tonight. Miscellaneous items. Mamie Thompson Low property off of Vellajoy Road, 2 lots, one with county road frontage and one served by a 25-foot easement with a variance request to minimum lot size. Doug?
Yes, if you want to start by looking at the plat, kind of hard to see just because of the size of the copy. But lot number 1 is actually on Vellajoy Road. Lot number 2 contains the easement. Lot 2 has 1 residence on it now and does meet our minimum lot size requirements. Lot number 1 is actually 20,000 square feet. And if you take out the area of development hindrance, which is the easement, I calculated that at about 3,100 square feet. The new lot is approximately 17,000 square feet. Our regulations require 30,000. Therefore, that's the purpose of the variance. However, this plat has been before the Board of Zoning Appeals, and it has been to Gary Ferguson for review. There are no current zoning variances required, and Gary Ferguson can make this lot work with some notes on the plat. I would like to let you know that this has occurred in the past, a division with variances when Gary can basically make both of the lots work, and there's 2 existing units already there. We're not adding anything. They're not going to be building any more houses. But I went back through our record, and about the past four similar situations, the Planning Commission has granted all of those variances, provided that Mr. Ferguson could approve the plat, and he would put any special notes on the plat that he needed to. And I just want to read the outstanding items to be completed into the record. Number 1 is the approval of the variance request, which is request a minimum lot size for lot 1. And number 2 is the signature plats.
Commissioner McClellan?
I believe you said lot 2 had 1 structure, or 1 residence on it?
That's correct.
What is that unlabeled structure there?
It was previously a residence, but it's been converted to just a storage building. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, it's just an accessory structure. They actually went in and took the kitchen out of it.
But it can't be converted back to a residence? It's not conditioned for it, or what?
I would say technically it probably could be, but they'd be they wouldn't be in compliance with the plat if they do so. After the plat's approved, we wouldn't have any enforcement if they converted it back.
Commissioner Hedrick?
And I think in reading this, I can answer my own question. I think that Gary is confident that for lot 1, there is area for duplication.
Yes. He's already confirmed that with me.
Okay.
And there'll be a special note on the plat to the effect that it's an existing system.
And here's
for duplication. Yes.
Thank you.
Motion to approve pending completion of outstanding items.
And motion to approve the variance.
Yes.
We have a motion to approve the variance and approve the site with completion of the remaining items. And we have a motion and a second. Is there any further comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Yes, John.
I would just want to tell the owners that you can come by the office tomorrow, and we will try to take care of you as much as we can tomorrow. I think everything's actually in order. I think Gary has signed his portion of the plat. He hasn't?
I think, I'm not
I can't remember. But we'll
Okay.
get them to.
Wait for Marlene to give you a call to make sure that everything's finished, but you're done here. It's a matter of getting signatures. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. John, Long Range.
First item is consideration of proposed amendments to the newly adopted campground and RV park zoning regulations concerning development perimeter setbacks and maximum density of campsites. This was before you at the last meeting. You actually had recommended 6 items on to the county commission, and you'll be considering those in a different format later on. But these 2 were kind of held back because we needed some clarification and wording. I provided you with a memo showing those clarifications and as proposed amendments, and it's before you for your consideration and possible recommendation on to the county commission. It's the memo that starts subject proposed amendments. 2-page.
Any questions? Trying to remember who raised the issues about, because for the clarification on the setbacks.
The setbacks was an issue that was raised by a member of the public at the public hearing.
Okay.
And that was some part of the discussion in the county commission at the time. Just as a little bit of a background and history, you had recommended a full set of regulations to the county commission. It was a full section of regulations on campgrounds. The county commission had a public hearing on that. I think the consensus was that we needed to go ahead and pass it and then do some tweaking and some adjusting. And so that's what you got back now, is some tweaking and adjusting based on the input from the public and the county commission during the public hearing and even outside the public hearing.
Okay. Will this have to go back to a public hearing then?
It'll have to go to the county commission for them setting a public hearing because it is an amendment of an approved regulation.
Commissioner McClellan?
I walked off and forgot the sketch I had brought, but I figured up just on if it was a 10-acre square subdivision, you would actually lose about 2.5 acres in the setback areas. So on 10 acres, you only got 7.5 usable. And I'm sorry I walked off and forgot that.
Any other comments, questions? Do we want to act on section 7.18.5 amendment?
What is the, if we didn't change the setback, what's the maximum amount of units that can be put on a 10-acre tract? What are we going to lose as far as units go? Do we know that?
There'll probably be a marginal loss of units, but the density is going to take care of that. I did a calculation at the last meeting and showing on a 10-acre tract with basically setbacks and all the other uses that need to go on the property, you'd get about 18 units per acre. So you're setting that as an 18 units per gross acre. Even if you smash that in a little bit because of the setbacks, you probably are still going to be able to get close to that, even with the taking out the setbacks, because you can put things like, well, particularly the septic system in the setback, which means you're not going to have that used up in the main portion of the development.
I recommend to send it on to full commission.
With the recommendation for approval?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we have motion And a second. Commissioner Hedrick, do you have further comments?
I was just trying to decipher through the calculations of what Mr. McClellan said and what you said. So, I mean, you're looking at 135?
135. Oh, for 10 acres?
Yeah.
Be
If you use
180.
that footprint.
180, 18 units per gross acre.
18 per,
Total acres, even though you're gonna lose 2.5 in setback or so, you're still gonna get 100.
And you're not necessarily going to lose all that setback. You're going to have a minimum setback anyway.
Okay.
But you're talking about an extra setback for those boundaries that are adjacent to existing residential uses. And that was the main concern of getting the development footprint away from those existing residential uses. So if you have something that's vacant all the way around you, you just got the minimum setbacks anyway.
Commissioner Allen?
What's the standard commercial setback on the road frontage, John?
I think it's,
Depending on the road, the front setback is the same as any building setback. But now, commercial setback from side property lines is double. Like, for residents, it's 10 feet, for commercial, it's 20. And on the back, for residents, it's 20, and for commercial, it's 40, so.
and the frontage is on we've got it set up to where it's fronting on arterial roads for the most part. And there's some that go on collector. But on arterial roads, they're set for 60 feet already. So we're just kind of confirming that.
My next question was is the motion for 5 and 5A, I assume, or just 5?
No, I think we're sending it forward as individual items. Just, John, what would you recommend? Do you want to send both of them forward?
You can do it. I've got, there was a request to combine the recommendations at the county commission meeting. So if you send this one on and you send the next one on also, I'm going to suggest that you combine it with one of the ones that we're considering as a combined. I've got 3 proposals, and one of those would be amenable to putting these 2 into that resolution proposal.
All right. Can I ask for, let's withdraw the motion. Can I ask for a withdrawal of the motion? And let's go ahead and discuss 718-5A. And, okay.
You can handle them separately. There's no problem. Because I'll just combine them into a separate, in a single resolution with another item.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. The motion is only specific to 718.5 subsection L, sending it on to the county commission for with a recommendation for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. 718.5.A. John.
This is the discussion we had the last time about the maximum density. In other words, not having it vary over different types of, different sizes of development, just define it as 18 units per gross acre, and that's setting it forth as an amendment to set that as a standard.
Any questions or comments on this subsection? Can I have a motion to approve? Or a motion to send it on to the county commission for approval? We have a motion and a second from David. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
And I will have a comment on how we can combine that into another resolution that's in the next memo. Okay, item 2 is referral back to the Planning Commission for revision by consolidation of recommendations on possible additional amendments to the newly adopted campground and RV park zoning regulations. We had sent those in separately. The idea was that if one failed, then not all of them would fail. There was some concern in the county commission that having public hearings open and closing on each item would unduly lengthen the consideration of the items, and they requested that like items be combined into separate resolutions. And what I've given you is 3 sets of 3 resolutions. The first one starts on page 1, combines clarification types of amendments. In other words, those are not really substantial changes. They just clarify wording and intent and meaning. On page, and that goes along page 2 and 3, it's 4 items. On page 4, there's actually a different section that's being addressed here, and that's suburbanizing district. And I felt that that needed to stand alone if it was going to, I mean, you don't need to mix apples and oranges necessarily if you're talking about a separate part of the resolution that you're amending. And the last item on page 5 is one that actually addressed substantial standards or regulations, and that's about the 25 campsites or fraction thereof within the campground for camp workers. Now, the 2 that you just recommended are also substantial regulations, and I would suggest that those 2 be added to this last proposed resolution. What I would do is to change the wording about the resolution regulating starting at by setting ratio of camp worker campsites that may be allowed, comma, and then adding the other 2 as part of the caption, and then adding 2 more sections that are explicitly like you recommended. Okay. So that would be what would be changing. And also the last whereas. I would add the intent there about the other 2. So if these combinations, you've already recommended these once, if these combinations are okay and the addition of the other 2 that you approved or recommended tonight are okay to add to that 3rd one, I'd suggest that this be re-recommended for approval to the county commission.
All right, let me ask you a technical issue. Do we need to recommend each one of these or this document as a whole?
I think you can do the whole because if you're satisfied with the way I've combined them and the reasons for combining them, I think they can go forward, and it does simplify the process somewhat.
Okay. All right, let me state for clarification then. The document, second document, the one we are considering right now, pages 1 through 6 are basically amendments that we approved last month and set as individual units. We have already discussed these and approved them or recommended for approval by the county commission. We are not changing anything relative to those amendments. The 2 amendments we just approved would be added to this document, and the whole document would go as a recommendation to the county commission.
It's actually three separate resolutions now instead of 6, or actually 8. Right. 3 separate resolutions.
So we've taken all those individuals and now broken it down into 3 sections. Is everybody clear on that? Then a motion to combine 718.5 subsection L and 718.5A to this consolidated zoning amendment would be in order. I have a motion and a second. Does everybody understand what we're doing? We're just taking this document we just approved and this document which we approved last month. John put it together in resolution form for the county commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Okay, number 3 is something that I've never faced before, but it was within the purview of the county commission. The county commission acted to deny the effectivity of amendment to the subdivision regulations 6.04.1b. That's the one that you approved at the last meeting. Given that, and according to state law, it is now no longer effective. In fact, it had no effectivity until the county commission were to approve it. Since they did not approve it, did not put it on the agenda for any consideration, it is dead. And I just want to report that to you. You have some options open to you. If you want to change it and send it back to them, you can. But I think from the discussion in county commission, it probably is it might be a dead issue. So basically, you've got something you approved that's not effective and is null and void.
This was the one, yeah, primarily was aimed at the private drives and common
Yes.
driveways. So they were reticent, reluctant to impose those standards.
I think Mr. Allen can probably address that because he was the one that raised the objection. I think he raised the objection also in consideration of the Planning Commission that 20 feet was a little bit wide, particularly if you were to set back on both sides of a common driveway that split through a property. You know, it seemed that that carried the day. So I'm just reporting that.
Commissioner Caldwell?
That's what I was getting ready to ask, something that seems like it's such common sense. How did it get, what was the explanation, but, you know, not passing it?
Well, I think it was, I'm not sure if it was the 20 feet or if it was just the idea of requiring a setback on a common driveway that would go through a piece of property and not just be on one side or the other, one boundary or the other of it. If it was on one boundary of it, you wouldn't have 20 feet on the other side of it, you just have one setback. But if it goes through a piece of property, which it often does, you would have a strip of land that's 25 feet plus 20, and that's 65 feet that you can't build on with a primary structure. Am I basically presenting it? Okay.
Commissioner McClellan?
So that means we're back to the 30-foot setback, correct?
No, I think we're back to the 0 setback.
I don't think that's what our zoning says, is it?
Well, I'll let Roger address that, but I think go ahead.
The 30-foot setback is for a road right-of-way or road easement. If it's just an ingress, egress easement, it's not a road, it's a private drive.
We made a mistake.
Good.
So 65 feet is the distance between front door or building to building.
No. Well,
If
yeah.
this, and today, if we build a subdivision, what is it, 105?
Well, if you're talking about a public road, yeah, you've got 50 foot and then 30 and 30. So you've got 110.
110?
But that's funding a public road.
Right.
And the same way with a private road, you would have the same, if you had a 50-foot easement with a private road in it, the way our zoning is written, you'd still have the 30 and 30. But a common driveway is not defined well. In fact, it's not defined at all in the zoning. And so we really only have our 0 to hang our hats on. We've tried to convince people that it's a good idea not to crowd the easement, but it's a matter of jawboning, as they used to say, and not a matter of pointing to regulation and saying this is the way you have to do it.
Commissioner McClellan?
So I understand there is no setback now, is that what you're saying?
Not from a common driveway.
So if I build a house here, right on the 25 feet easement, somebody across the street from me can build one on 25 feet. We're that close with cars going right between us.
Basically, yeah. Well, no, there will be a set. If we allow two structures to be permitted on any property that has enough acreage, okay? Let's say there's a 25-foot easement going through that acreage, split it in half. You could put one house on one side, one house on the other side. You can put them right up at the easement, and you'd have 25 feet apart.
That's what we want to do.
Now, you usually don't have that situation occur, but it's possible.
Shouldn't have it. I'd say you could.
We've never had it before, and like John said, a lot of times these easements split private property. You may have a creek off this one side, somebody might want to build something. I think that was the building commission.
I think that this would encourage developments to develop housing on private roads that would, I mean, it just, to me, to not have some kind of a setback, that at least make it safe for someone to get in and out of their vehicle out of the road. You know, it's like you're going to have to park on the road if somebody does that. So it just...
Well, not necessarily. Usually the house doesn't take up the whole frontage of the road. You can go around the house to the back or to the side or whatever. But yes, you will, quote, crowd the easement a little bit. If I were to buy a house, I wouldn't want a gravel drive right next to my bedroom, let me put it that way, or next to my living room or whatever. You know, I'd want it set back, and most people do set it back. So it's basically, it's not going to be a situation that you're going to run into realistically. And most developers, when they bring in these common driveways, if they bring them in like multiple, we've had some subdivisions like that, they want to have a setback from that easement. And they'll just now put in basically whatever they want to within reason. But we will not be able to say to them, this is our minimum.
My experience with builders is they're gonna put it as close as they can, because that's less concrete they're gonna have to pour for a driveway.
Commissioner Allen.
Put it right on the setback line that you have.
I'm sure the commission would entertain if we wanted to reduce the setback amount. I think that we thought it was extreme at 20 foot on each side. If this commission would like to reduce that, I'm sure we could send it back and have better luck. Also, we've got to quit calling these roads. They are not roads. This is a driveway, and you can have a maximum of 4 structures on it. In addition to that, we're not talking only about building houses. This is any structure limited. No barns, no garages, no sheds. So anything, I think, John, correct me if I'm wrong, anything over 36 inches is a structure.
Anything over a height of 30 inches.
30 inches. So I understand what y'all are saying about building a house and having a driveway below the window, but if you wanted to build a garage over here, now you've got to go 20 feet off of a 25-foot easement off of an 8-foot gravel driveway, not a road. So if the commission would like to reduce these, I'm sure we would have better luck. But the way they stand now, the commission didn't agree with them.
I'll just remind the commission that we first started considering 10 feet, and it kind of ratcheted up to 20 feet in the discussion.
Well, you know, if you build a garage on a lot line less than 20 feet, by the time you clear yourself to vision, to be able to see into the road you're backing into, you're going to need 15 feet or so. So
This isn't a lot line. We're talking about an easement.
Exactly. The easement is
right through the middle of your property.
What would the easement be used for?
The property behind you.
It'd be used for, there'd be vehicles traveling on that easement, so.
Tractors, vehicles, whatever.
Right. And I think that we need to have a safe distance for a transition to be made from a garage into a driving area.
It fell as it stands. I'm just saying, if you want it to pass, we're gonna have to reduce it. If you want it just to be 0, we're good.
What is your pleasure?
Well, I think something's better than nothing, so if you know, I mean, I'd be for sending at least 10-foot easement, and I think 10 foot is not enough for a good, safe entrance into a driveway, but you know, you can call it a driveway because it's a private easement, but it is a road that's being used for. How many homes can be serviced off of it?
Well, 4 exclusively off the easement, but you could have up to 6.
Okay, so, you know, there's traffic going to be on that road. I personally do not feel like 10 feet's enough, but, you know, at least give a kid time to run around the building and see that there's not a car coming. And 15 feet would at least allow that, so, or 10 feet. But, you know, I'm willing to reduce it if everybody else is, but I think it needs to be something that's safe.
What if we said 10 feet off the common driveway easement line and 15 off the private road easement?
Well, the private road easement's already covered as 30 feet, even in our zoning regulations. So the common driveway easement was the issue.
Well, I'll recommend to reduce it to 10 feet, if that's agreeable with everybody.
All right, we have that in the form of a motion and a second. Common driveway easement, 10 feet. Commissioner Allen, will it fly?
That's 45 feet is what it is, so that's a crossing convention.
And this didn't make it to commission, just the agenda committee, correct?
Well, actually, you're going to have to do the republication of a public hearing with 30 days' notice because the other one failed and you're having a new one, so it wouldn't get to the county commission for another couple of months. We'll have to set a public hearing for the change.
All right, so John, you're saying we did not, in this, what we set through, we didn't change the 30 feet. The 30 feet was already existing.
Yeah, the 30 feet was already existing under the zoning.
For private roads, right-of-ways.
It was just the common driveway that was stuck in everybody's craw.
And the minimum common driveway easement is?
25 feet with a 10-foot gravel surface.
That's where you're getting your 45. And is that true if that easement sits on the property line?
Well, you'd only have it on one side. You can't enforce it on the other side.
Right,
The other side actually has a setback from a property line.
Right.
Which is
Understand.
20 feet. Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
if it's a side, it's 15 feet, right? 10.
For a house.
But that other property will not be using the easement. That's what I'm
No,
saying.
yeah. But I'm thinking of Commissioner Allen's example of the 45. I mean, I have an easement on my property, and it sits. I mean, the driveway sits.
To sit on the property line?
Yeah, the adjacent.
Whoever side of the property line the driveway's on is the only person that's on that.
Right.
So if that driveway sits on your line,
Then it's 30 foot. It has an impact of 30 of the 25 plus the 10.
it'd be 35 feet off the
But it's an old easement. It's only 14 to begin with, so.
I just want you to understand, if you've made I think, was there a motion and a second? There was a motion and a second.
Right.
Your voting is to put that to public hearing again, and then you will either approve it or not, and it will then automatically go to the county commission for their confirmation under provisions of state statutes. So you're not recommending it to the county commission. You're
We're
gonna-
recommending it for a public hearing.
Yes.
Does everybody feel comfortable with that? Any more discussion? If not, then we have a motion and a second to modify the common driveway easement to 10 feet and to request John to publish it for a public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. John, make the amendments and publish for a public hearing,
Okay,
at which time then we will act on it to send on to the county commission.
that's correct. Well, it'll go automatically. You don't have to send it on. Staff reports is the last thing on long-range planning, and I just want to remind those, several of you, in fact, almost all of you have filled out your statement of disclosure to the state. If you're a county commissioner, then you can just add that you're also a member of the planning commissioner. It's required of you as a county commissioner. If you're just a appointed member, you do need to take care of that, and I will send out emails to everybody that's not got it done, just to remind you, because it needs to be done by the end of the month. Beyond that, I had discussed with you a training schedule, and I want to kind of reiterate that. I have a presentation. It's actually been presented quite a bit, not in Blount County so much, but in the region. It's called Population at the Speed of Life. It's a population demographic type of analysis of how we grow and why we grow. particularly in relationship to the health of the population and how that relates then to planning for the built environment. I'm going to be scheduling that probably sometime in March, so you'll be contacted by me. I'm actually going to be presenting it to the Loudoun County Planning Commissions at the very end of March on a Monday, and the 31st is also open, which is a 5th Tuesday, and I might be asking you to let me practice on Loudoun County and then come back a whole lot more polished and make the presentation to you and all the planning commissions in Blount County, minus Friendsville, who's already seen it. They were the first guinea pig on that. After that, one of my thrusts for this year is to try to address a little bit more, in a little bit more systematic manner, how health is related to planning and how it is related to the work of the planning commissions. And I'm going to be working with the Blount County Community Health Initiative on that. You have seen, I think some of you, the first part of a 4-part series called Building a Healthy Communities or something like that. We've got a 4-part series. It's a video. You won't have to listen to me on that one. It's an hour each time. If you haven't seen it, most of you haven't seen it, you will be able to then get 4 hours with that. So I'll be asking you for about 5.5 hours. You only have to have 4, but I would suggest that if you have time to listen to all of that and get a better idea of how you relate to health in the community and how planning relates to health of the population in the community. You will also have a requirement of 1 hour in property rights training. So we're talking about not just 5.5 hours, but 6.5 hours this year. So I'm going to be asking you for more than the minimum, but there's a reason for that. It's because I'm working with the Blount County Community Health Initiative, and I want to see if we can get something going between them and the public and the planning commissions in Blount County to address health in a little bit more systematic manner.
Thank you, John. Any other comments? Questions? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are adjourned.